the Algebra 1 Unit 7 Day 2 exponent unit. So here we're going to work on our next sets of exponent properties that we have not worked on yet, which is division and negative exponents. So as you can see with our Desmos notes here, we're starting with a little warm-up. So let's start with that. Okay, so here I'm going to work out each of these, put my answer, and then hopefully see that we have it correct. So let's just recall a few different things that we got here. So we've got 3x squared to the third, okay? So this 3 is not an exponent. So this is like 3 to the third, right? So 3 to the third, and you can use this little embedded calculator if you need to, right? So 3, and then hit this button here for your exponent, so 3 to the third, 27, right? Okay, so cool, I get the 27. And now, what do we do with the exponent? So it's a power to a power. So you do an exponent to an exponent, you need to multiply. So 27x to the 6th. So let's try that one, 27x to the 6th. Yeah, we got it right. All right, so now, let's try our next problem. So we have 2 x squared y times 3xy squared. Okay, so in this one, we really need to treat these all as separate parts, right? So there's the coefficients, there's the x's, and then there's the y's. So let's look at them each as separate entities. So 2 times 3, those aren't exponents, so the exponent rules don't apply. You just multiply 2 times 3 like we were back in elementary school. And then for the variables here, remember, if there's no exponent there, it's implied to be a 1. I highly suggest putting a 1 exponent there. X squared and x to the first, when you're asked to multiply the exponents, you actually add them, so you get x to the third. Y to the first and y squared, when you're asked to multiply the exponents, you actually add them. So 1 and 2 gives us 3. So we get 6x to the third, y to the third. So that's what we're going to have here. 6x to the third, y to the third. So you'll see that you're correct again. All right, so the next one here is 3x squared times 4x to the third. So, so 3x squared times 4x to the third. So 3 times 4, again, those are not exponents, so you just multiply those coefficients just like you would have back in elementary school. Again, the rules we've gone over are for exponents, so these are not exponents, so just you do what you would always have done. All right, so then you keep the base the same. When you're asked to multiply the exponents, what do you actually do? You add them. So 2 and 3 give us 5, so you get 12x to the 5th. So 12x to the 5th, and there we go. And then lastly here we have 5x to the 4th, y squared. Okay, so 5 squared, so remember that's like 5 squared here. If you want to take this extra step, right, 5 squared, and then it's x to the 4 times 2, and then y, and then this is like 1 times 2, 2. So 5 squared, what's 5 squared? 25. And then x, remember, when you do a power to a power, you multiply. 4 times 2 is 8, so to the 8th. And then y to the 2nd. And we got them all right. So those are our review for those rules. So let's just review the rules real quick. When you do an exponent to an exponent, you're going to multiply the exponents. And when that's called power of a power. And when you're asked to multiply exponents, you actually add them. All right, cool. So let's get into what it is that we're actually doing for the new rules today. So we're going to do division, and we're going to deal with negative exponents. So let's start with division. Expand and simplify in the box below. Remember, when it's the same on top and bottom, it cancels out. So x to the 4th, what does that actually mean, right? It means x times x times x times x 4 times, right? So like x to the 4th. Okay, x to the 3rd means x times x times x, right? Remember, anything in the top and the bottom will cancel. So cancel, cancel, cancel. What are we left with? Just x, right? So that would be our answer here, okay? All right, so now, what does that mean? What are we actually going to do? Okay, well, let's deal with our exponents. So the key to exponents is that each part stays together. All right, so the coefficients, so here we have 12a to the 6th over 4a squared. Coefficients, we just do the operation. So again, notice the 12 and the 4 here, those are not exponents, right? They're coefficients, so they're just numbers. So you just divide 12 over 4, or, you know, simplify the fraction like you would have in elementary school or middle school. So 12 divided by 4 is 3. So we just get 3. Okay, so now you have to look, are these the same variable? If they're not the same variable, they cannot combine, okay? They don't have any like terms, they can't combine or cancel the way that these could, right? If these were x's and these were y's, you couldn't cancel anything. They have to be the same variable. So in this case, they're both a's. And now we're going to follow the rule. So what is our shortcut rule here? When dividing, subtract the exponents. So we have 6 minus 2 is 4, so our answer here would be 3a to the fourth. All right, awesome. All right, so now let's go over a few. So let's use our different division rules. So when dividing, subtract the exponents. So x to the 12th over x to the 9th is just going to be x to the 12 minus 9. Well, what's 12 minus 9? Oh, it's x to the third. So we're going to go down here. We're going to type in x to the third. Okay. All right, so now let's do it here. So remember, 5 over 2, so 5 minus 2 is 3, so we get x to the third. So we'll go here and we'll get x to the third. And then we've got right-hand arrow click to get your y. Y to the fourth over y, so 4 over 1. 4 minus 1 is 3, so we're going to do an exponent of 3. So x to the third, y to the third. All right, next we got 12 divided by 3. Remember, these are coefficients. You're just going to divide them like you normally would have. And now, remember, we don't see an exponent here for the a, so it's implied to be a 1. So it's like 3 minus 1. So what are we going to get there, right? We're going to get a to the second. And then right-hand arrow click out of that. B to the third over b squared. Well, 3 minus 2 is just 1. So we're just going to get b to the first. And again, you don't actually have to put that exponent there because it's implied. All right, so there's our division rule. When you're asked to divide with exponents, you actually subtract them. Okay, so let's go through and think about a few things here in terms of what we know. So 3 to the second times 2 to the third. Like, what is that, right? Okay, so let's go down here and we can type this in, right? So 3 squared times 2 to the third, 72. Right? Why is the answer not 6 to the fifth? Because we don't multiply the bases, right? They need to stay the same. And if these were different variables, we couldn't even do this problem, right? The bases would have to be the same. We can do it because they're actual integers, numbers, but if these are variables, we could not combine those. Okay? All right. So let's go to an example here where we have to think a little bit. So when we're asked to divide, we subtract, right? Okay, so 2 minus 4. Like, what does that give us, right? 2 minus 4, doesn't that give us x to the negative 2, right? So right now, because 2 minus 4 is negative 2, so right now we're going to say that. But we cannot have an answer with a negative exponent. So let's go forward here. This is what answer we'd get. So what should we do with the negative exponent? The negative exponent means that the part of the expression is in the wrong place. So we move it to the other place. So if it's on the top, we move it to the bottom. If it's on the bottom, we move it to the top. When we move it, it becomes positive. So right now, this is in the top because it's like over 1. So we would need to rewrite this as 1 over x to the second. That would be how we would rewrite this. Okay, remember, if you don't see a denominator, it's implied to be a 1. All right. All right, so let's look at a couple examples. Okay, so if we see a negative exponent, we have to switch its location in the fraction to make it positive. All right, so we have r to the negative second over x to the third, and then we have y to the negative fourth. So we're going to switch that, right? So, okay, the x to the third has a positive exponent. It's going to stay where it is. And now I'm going to switch colors for emphasis here. This is a negative second, so it needs to move to the bottom. Okay, so we're going to move that guy to the bottom. So now it's in the denominator, and now we switch the sign. The y to the negative 4 is in the bottom, so to make it positive, it's got to go to the top. So what do we get? Y to the fourth over x to the third r squared. And you can write this in whichever order. Technically, you should put it in alphabetical. So put the r squared first and then the x to the third, but that's not a big deal. All right, so here you go. Y to the fourth divided by, and then r squared x to the third. All right, awesome. All right, so now let's do this one. So this involves a couple of different things at once, right? So we've got x squared y to the fourth to the negative 2. So first thing, power to a power, you multiply. So 2 times negative 2 gives me negative 4. 4 times negative 2 gives me negative 8. Well, those are both negative exponents, which we can't have. Remember, if there's no denominator, it's implied to be a 1. So where do these both need to go? They both need to go to the denominator. So it's going to become x to the fourth, y to the eighth in the denominator with the 1 numerator. So that's what we'll have right there. So let's do it. 1 over x to the fourth, y to the eighth. And that's what we should have here. All right, last but not least, let's look at this one. So we're going to have 6y to the fourth, 6y to the negative fourth over y to the fifth. So the first thing I see is, hey, that's a negative exponent. We can't have that. So it's got to go to the denominator. So we're going to move that to the denominator. So now you have y to the fifth and y to the fourth. Well, remember, what are you supposed to do when you're asked to multiply? When you're asked to multiply the exponents, you actually add the exponents. So 5 plus 4 should give me y to the ninth. What does this 6 do? Well, it just is sitting there, right? It has nothing combined with. So there we go. 6 over y to the ninth. So now we're just going to type that guy in. And there we go. Okay? All right, so from here you want to go through and do screens 9 and then 10. You want to think about that one. 11. Okay, so make sure you go through screen 9, 10, 11, and then 12 is an extra credit. So I challenge you to try this one. If you have an answer for this one, then you can let me know, and we'll go over this eventually in class. But the core practice is do screens 9, 10, 11, and then you do want to go to Delta Math and work on your Unit 7 assignment. So the 9, 10, 11 should not take all of your asynchronous time. You need to get started on your Delta Math assignment for Unit 7. Hope this helps.